Welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got lots of news to share with you here today. We're going to be starting off with this story that you see here on your screen as Russia attacked Ukraine's capital of Kyiv with missiles and drones early on Wednesday. So just earlier this morning inside of Kyiv, as you can see here in the video footage, people were storming into the subways to seek shelter. As many people were heading to work, all of a sudden air raid sirens were going off as they were under attack by a combination of cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones fired from Russia. So definitely was a major attack. I think we had upwards of 90 Shahed drones that were flown into Ukraine overnight coming from Russia, many of them targeting the city of Kyiv early this morning. So we'll be discussing that some more today. I'll give you guys some updates in regards to that attack, but damage assessment is still currently underway right now. So there is not too much video footage or pictures coming out, but I do have some things I can show you from that recent attack. We also have a report to go over today as in the city of Sevastopol down in Crimea, we had what looks like an assassination on a chief of staff of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Okay, he was a captain of the missile ships in the Black Sea Fleet that was responsible for ordering the launch of cruise missiles from the Black Sea to civilian objects in Ukraine. And he is responsible also for civilian deaths inside of Ukraine. So we're going to be talking about that. His name is Valery Trankovsky. He was apparently eliminated in a vehicle traveling in Sevastopol, and looks like an IED was planted on his vehicle. Now, there's some reports stating that this could have been either partisans in Crimea that did this, or maybe this was Ukraine's special forces that potentially sabotaged his vehicle as well. So we'll also be talking about that today. And then also over the last 24 hours, we had reports of two oil depots that came under attack. I think one of them could have been like a fuel storage and lubrication facility that was attacked. But looks like two oil depots potentially attacked last night as well. So we're going to be going over that information. Also, there's just so much coming out today. So I want to go ahead and start diving right into this. Let's hop on over to mainstream news here for you. We're going to go over this report just briefly on CBS News. Says Russia fires dozens of missiles and drones at Ukraine's capital as North Korean troops start fighting in Kursk. This just coming out today, November 13th, 2024. So we'll go over this briefly, just a couple paragraphs here, then we'll hop on over to X, show you guys that video footage and evidence of this attack. Russia attacked the Ukrainian capital Kyiv on Wednesday with a sophisticated combination of missiles and drones for the first time in 73 days, authorities reported. As the Pentagon said, most of the North Korean troops sent to help Moscow's war efforts were fighting to drive Ukraine's army off Russian soil in the Kursk border region. South Korea's spy agency also said North Korean troops were engaging in combat in the Kursk region hours after the U.S. military shared its assessment of the growing Russian-North Korean cooperation. Air raid warnings blared for hours as Russia targeted 8 regions of Ukraine, firing 6 ballistic and cruise missiles and 90 drones, the Ukrainian Air Force said. Air defenses downed 4 missiles and 37 drones, and another 47 drones were stopped by electronic jamming, the statement said. So definitely a major attack inside of Ukraine last night, especially targeting the capital city of Kyiv. And if you notice, it talks about here about South Korea's spy agency stating that North Korean troops are actively engaging in combat now. I do have other reports to show you on X as well today of that information. So it does state down here as well that damage was being assessed when it comes to this attack in Kyiv. So we will probably get more pictures and information coming out soon from this attack. But I do have some things I can share with you here today. So let's hop on over to X now. And let me show you some of this information over here. We've got a lot of things to go over here, so let's go ahead and get into this. Bliskovka reports the Air Defense Forces of Ukraine shot down 2 Russian X-101 cruise missiles, 2 Iskander-M KN-23 ballistic missiles, those are North Korean missiles, and 37 out of 90 UAVs. The Russian air targets were destroyed in the Kyiv, Poltava, Zhytomyr, Sumy, Cherkasy, Zaporizhia, Chernihiv, and Kirovohrad regions. 47 enemy UAVs were lost in different regions of Ukraine. 2 UAVs left Ukrainian airspace in the direction of Belarus and Russia. 2 more drones are still in the air. So I do have some information that, yes, looks like Belarus and also maybe even Russian territory came under attack by their own drones. We have seen this repeatedly where a lot of these drones will come from Russia. They fly into Ukraine briefly, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, they turn around and head back towards Belarus in the north, or even sometimes back in Russian territory. So this was a diagram that came out from Ukraine's defense ministry showing some of these drones and missiles that were shot down. So this was directly from Ukraine just today. As you can see here, November 13th, 2024 was when this was released. Okay, now moving on to another update, Vicegrad 24. This was the update that came out right around the time of the attack. So many of us were going to sleep. So you can see last night, my time, this was at 11:08, almost at midnight last night. When this was first starting to be reported that Kyiv was going to come under attack. So from Vicegrad 24 breaking, large Russian air attack against Kyiv right now. 4 Russian Tu-95 strategic bombers launched cruise missiles from the Caspian Sea. Russia is also launching ballistic missiles and suicide drones against the Ukrainian capital city. So this was the original report that was just starting to come out prior to the attack. Now we have video footage and pictures here to share with you guys of some of the explosions and some of the drones flying over Kyiv. So from War Translated Dmitry, this morning Kyiv was attacked simultaneously with missiles and drones for the first time in 73 days, according to the Kyiv City Military Administration, or also known as KCMA. According to the KCMA, air defense forces destroyed several cruise and ballistic missiles as well as up to a dozen drones. So we've got video footage here for you. Looks like 2 videos and 1 picture to show a direct strike inside of the capital city of Kyiv. So we're going to start off with this first video, which is going to show you a Shahed drone flying pretty low over the city of Kyiv. So take a look at this, like 30 seconds long.
Пидор, блядь.
All right, so as you can see, Ukraine was very busy trying to shoot down these incoming drones and missiles into their territory last night, especially in Kyiv. You can hear lots of small arms fire in the background as the Ukrainian air defense teams were trying to shoot these down. Maybe even state police were trying to shoot them down with their firearms. So it looks like this one was not shot down in this video. Maybe it made a direct hit. You can even see at one moment there was a bullet that went by there too. So they were trying to shoot it down. So we got a picture to show you guys as well. Here's a picture of what looks like a direct hit inside of Kyiv, but I noticed here this kind of blurred out, so I'm not sure why this was blurred out, maybe for some sort of security purpose, but looks like we did have some sort of direct strike with either a missile that was fired or potentially a drone directly hitting a target in Kyiv. Okay, now one more video coming up. Okay, this looks like some sort of explosion inside of Kyiv as well. Looks like maybe this could have been some sort of electrical equipment that may have been struck, because we can see some explosions here and then also a lot of power lines. So I'm not sure if this was electrical equipment or maybe a transformer that may have been hit, and that could be what the explosion is that we're seeing there. As you see that bright flash of a light. So definitely something was destroyed here in Kyiv just early this morning. So now we're going to hop on to another update. I've got some pictures here for you as well from Glasnost Gone. To kill civilians during the rush hour, this morning Russia launched an all-out air attack on Ukraine's capital Kyiv. First cruise missiles said to have been used, then faster ballistic missiles, several dozen missiles in total, then a wave of around a dozen kamikaze drones. With air raid warnings still sounding, we're awaiting a full update. But Ukrainian air defenses look to have held firm and downed most Ork missiles and drones. So far, 1 fire reported in the city and 1 person injured, So it looks like we had fires reported and also 1 person so far being injured. Maybe there will be more reports of that soon. But we can see, looks like some buildings here were destroyed as they caught on fire from these attacks. These were firefighters actively working to put out the blaze. Some damage here, what looks like maybe some storage buildings also inside Kyiv. So, yeah, definitely some direct hits inside Kyiv have been reported already. But again, not too much information coming out so far in terms of these attacks. Maybe we'll get some more later. But that's it in terms of video footage and pictures that I was able to find for you guys from these attacks in Kyiv. Also, from Max 24, at least 12 Shaheeds flew to Belarus overnight, 2 disappeared, and 1 flew to Rychika, making a circle of more than 200 kilometers, according to Belarusian Gayun. This is already the 4th night in a row when Shaheeds have flown into Belarus in mass, and for the first time in these days, the aircraft of the Air Force of the Republic of Belarus was raised. So it looks like Belarus had to raise their fighter jets into the skies to defend from these Ukrainian, well, I guess I would say Russian drones. They came from Ukraine, but they were originally fired from Russia. These Shahed drones that, for some reason, happened to head into Ukraine, and then if you notice their flight patterns, they'll go back into Belarus and then sometimes back into Ukraine. So I'm not sure exactly why that happens. If you guys understand some information about these drones, why they might be doing that, go ahead and share that down in the comment section for us. But we have been definitely seeing a lot of this of Russian UAVs heading into Belarus as they started to enter Ukraine. All of a sudden, they turned back around, head back into Belarus or Russia. All right, so moving on to another update from War Monitor. Ukrainian Special Forces or partisans have assassinated the 41st Missile Boat Brigade's Chief of Staff, Captain First Rank Valery Trankovsky, in a car bomb explosion in Sevastopol, Crimea. So this is what I was talking to you guys about earlier from this Chief of Staff of the 41st Missile Boat Brigade with Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Supposedly he was killed. His name is Valery Trankovsky. We've got video footage here coming out from Sevastopol from Firebread. In Sevastopol, Crimea, partisans blew up a car with an officer of the Russian Black Sea Fleet inside. The owner of the car, a captain of the first rank, died on the spot. So we've got this video footage to show you guys coming out from Sevastopol. So it's 23 seconds long. Take a look at this. Okay, so from what we understand here, again, this was either partisans or also Ukrainian special forces that potentially planted this bomb in this vehicle, destroying it with this man inside. Okay, so here's a picture of him right here from Military News UA. The Security Service of Ukraine confirmed the liquidation of the Chief of Staff of the missile ships of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, Valery Trankovsky, in the temporarily occupied Sevastopol. Trankovsky is a war criminal who gave orders to launch cruise missiles from the Black Sea at civilian objects in Ukraine. In particular, he shelled Vinnytsia with caliber in July 2022. Then 29 civilians died. Trankovsky also repeatedly shelled Odessa and other cities, which killed many civilians. So here's a picture of him, supposedly this being the man, Valery Trankovsky, who was eliminated in this attack. And again, it seems like some sort of bomb was planted on his vehicle that destroyed it at the time while he was traveling on that road. So that was a huge story coming out today. Multiple sources sharing this on X, okay? So now moving on, we're going to talk about a couple of these oil depots that supposedly had come under attack over the last 24 to 36 hours. There's 2 reports that came out on X, one of them today and then also one yesterday that I want to share with you guys. So this is the most recent one from Nexta. Tonight, Ukrainian drones hit an oil tank at the Roz Reserve oil storage facility in the settlement of Montazny. Sorry, guys. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. This is the outskirts of the closed town of Zarekny, formerly Penza 19 in the Penza region, where nuclear warheads used to be assembled. Now the town is also associated with the nuclear industry of the Russian Federation. So the Penza region, I want to say, is approximately probably somewhere around 600-700 kilometers from the border, give or take. It's definitely past Moscow, further into Russia, closer to central Russia. So I want to show you guys the video footage coming out from here of somebody driving by, and they're going to be able to record a direct strike on one of these tanks. It's not on fire, but we can see it did take a direct hit. And here's a satellite image as well. So take a look at this. Okay, so no sound in this video, but as this person continues driving, we'll kind of move a little bit forward here. As they're continuing to drive, you can see right there, it looks like one of these oil storage tanks did take a direct hit. You can even see a hole in it there. So it doesn't look like it completely destroyed the oil tank, but it did take a direct hit according to this video, okay? So now we've also got a picture to show you of satellite imagery showing the size of this oil facility. Definitely a pretty good size one in the Penza region near the town of Zarekny, okay? So apparently we had a direct hit at this oil storage facility. Also, another update from Max 24. General Staff confirmed that at night, AFU struck a Russian warehouse of fuel and lubricants in the Belgorod region. Oskol Neftstab, hopefully I'm saying that right, warehouse near the city of Stary-Oskol. The results of the combat work are currently being clarified, okay? So this was being shared yesterday, right around the time that I released our daily updates regarding Ukraine and Russia. This information was just starting to come out that in the Belgorod region, which is just over the border of Ukraine into Russia, I think it's close to the Kyiv region, that we had a fuel and lubricants warehouse being struck. Then we also had this report here from Glasnost. Overnight, Ukraine struck another oil depot in Russia's Belgorod region. Local governor admitting a fuel tank caught fire due to a drone strike. Its positioning outside the city of Stary-Oskol is not ideal, as it's next to a petrol station on a main dual carriage road. So here's an overview snapshot, satellite imagery showing this facility. And then also we've got a picture that somebody's able to capture here showing smoke coming from this facility after it took a direct hit from Ukrainian drones, and then satellite imagery as well showing it's not too far away from Stary-Oskol, over here near the town of Kotin. I'm probably not saying that right, but very close to this smaller town here in the Belgorod region, okay? So again, reports of 2 oil depots that took direct hits. And from what I heard yesterday was when this oil depot was struck, soon after the fire was put out. So I don't believe it got extremely out of control, but definitely a fire did break out at this facility after it was hit, okay? Also from Nexta, the Russian army has lost another Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopter. On the afternoon of November 7th, an AFU FPV drone struck a Russian Ka-52 helicopter. As a result, the commander of the craft was killed. According to OSINT Project Orcs, Russia lost at least 62 Ka-52 helicopters during the invasion of Ukraine. Now, we have been reporting a lot of these Ka-52 helicopters, sometimes referred to as the Alligator, being destroyed. What's crazy about this one was a Ukrainian FPV drone is what took this thing down. Now, an FPV drone, if you're not aware of this, is just a small quadcopter drone a lot of times. And sometimes the Ukrainians attach explosives to these small explosive devices, and they crash them into either tanks or vehicles. Sometimes infantry it's used on as well. So it looks like they were able to use this and directly strike a Ka-52 helicopter, an attack chopper, and this was supposedly the man who was piloting it, and he was killed in this attack. Okay, so this was just recently on November 7th, just about 1 week ago. Okay, also from NOAA reports, North Korean troops deployed to Russia have moved to the front line in Kursk and are now actively engaged in combat against Ukraine, according to South Korea's spy agency. The National Intelligence Service reported their full deployment to battlefields over the past 2 weeks. Okay, so this was another report that came out. If you guys want to screenshot that, we're not really going to go over it as we've already talked about this twice already in this video. But yes, it looks like South Korea's spy agency is confirming that North Korean troops are currently engaged in combat operations against Ukraine. Okay, so that's South Korea coming out and confirming that. Also from the Kursk region, from Chuck Farrer, Kursk battle, a strong Russian-North Korean mechanized attack was broken up and driven back on the road to Mala Lokhnya. 14 Russian BTRs were destroyed. North Korean Type 74 automatic weapons were found scattered on the battlefield, indicating North Korean troops were deployed. Now, this is interesting that North Korean Type 74 automatic weapons were found, as we have been hearing that the North Korean troops that were supposedly deployed over to Russia were supposed to be fitted and kitted out with Russian equipment, okay? Not only wearing Russian uniforms, but supposedly being given Russian weaponry. Now, it would make sense that the North Korean soldiers would be carrying their own weapons from their nation, as obviously they were trained with these rifles. But apparently, this is information coming out that these rifles were being found in the Kursk region, possibly indicating that North Korean troops were engaging with the Ukrainians. Okay, so that was pretty crazy news coming out today. Also from Max 24, Antony Blinken has vowed that North Korean involvement in the war will get a firm response. This was coming out from Sky News today. USA State Department, I think is what it's supposed to say, confirmed yesterday that North Korean soldiers had actively joined fighting alongside Russia forces, more than 10,000 troops. Okay, so even Antony Blinken coming out and saying that apparently there's going to be some sort of firm response that's going to be coming from the United States, maybe even NATO. We have been hearing NATO coming out as well, saying that they're going to be stepping up their support for Ukraine. We are hearing as well lots of support coming from the United States in terms of monetary value. We've been hearing that a $6 billion package is supposed to be sent over to Ukraine very quickly. So they're probably going to be getting some more sophisticated weaponry and equipment. And who knows, probably some restrictions on some weapons going over to Ukraine that maybe in the past that the United States was not willing to send over to Ukraine. Maybe they might start sending them some other equipment or weaponry. We'll have to see what's going to happen, but it looks like the U.S. along with NATO could potentially be doing more here very soon. We have been seeing a lot of buildup of that information. Also from War Translated Dmitry, NATO will provide military assistance to Ukraine on a scale that ensures that Ukrainian armed forces are prepared to continue fighting in 2025. According to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken following a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. The purpose of this visit is to focus our efforts on ensuring that Ukraine has the funds, ammunition, and mobilized forces to fight effectively in 2025 or be able to enter negotiations from a position of strength, he stated. So this is big news because this is exactly what Volodymyr Zelensky has been talking about. He's been saying that they want to enter into a position of strength when they go into negotiations with Russia. That's also why they pushed into the Kursk region, was to use that as leverage in negotiations with Russia to maybe potentially get some of their land back. Who knows what they might try to negotiate. But Volodymyr Zelensky has been saying this a lot, that they need to be strong, they need to have good air defenses, they need to be able to strike hard into Russia, put Russia into a position where they feel like they're losing, is what he said. What Volodymyr Zelensky said, so that way Russia can discontinue their attacks onto Ukraine. So let's see what happens here in the coming weeks, as it looks like the U.S. and NATO could be potentially stepping up their support for Ukraine. Also from Nexta, in Russia, military personnel staged a mass escape with pogrom, which is like a riot, from a military unit near Novosibirsk. Two of the escapees had previous convictions. Between 10 and 15 servicemen may have escaped from a military unit in the Novosibirsk region, having organized a pogrom beforehand. At least two of the escapees had previous criminal convictions. Russian media reported this is one of the most massive escapees from a military unit since the beginning of the war. Several escapees have already been detained by military police, but most remain on the run. So it looks like we've got more reports of Russian soldiers at some of these military camps that probably, don't want to be sent to the front line, okay? They're probably trying to escape to, as they know, if they get sent to the front line, they're most likely going to lose their lives. Maybe they don't agree with the war, whatever it might be. So we've got this video footage of these, supposedly these Russian soldiers that are inside of this building and destroying it, essentially staging a riot, destroying the building, and also trying to escape. So take a look at this.
Бунт! Юху! Заебало все. Базара нет. Базара нет. Базара нет. Сходит бунт.
All right, so I apologize that there is no subtitles here on this video, so we don't know exactly what they're talking about, but multiple sources were sharing this video on X today, claiming that these were escapees and Russian soldiers that were trying to escape from joining the war as well. Okay, so that was some big news coming out today. Also from Max 24, Ukraine could develop a rudimentary nuclear bomb within months if Donald Trump withdraws U.S. military assistance, according to a briefing paper prepared for the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, according to the Times. The country would quickly be able to build a basic device from plutonium with a similar technology to the Fat Man bomb. With no time to build and run the large facilities required to enrich uranium, wartime Ukraine would have to rely instead on using plutonium extracted from spent fuel rods taken from Ukraine's nuclear reactors. Ukraine still controls 9 operational reactors and has significant nuclear expertise despite having given up the world's third largest nuclear arsenal in 1996. So obviously Ukraine does not have nuclear weapons right now, and we've been hearing multiple reports recently over the last month or so that Ukraine could start producing nuclear weapons. We've kind of heard this from Volodymyr Zelensky as well. He kind of mentioned some talk about that in terms of nuclear weapons, that Ukraine needs a nuclear bomb to defend their nation, as if they had nuclear weapons, this would prevent this Russian invasion to begin with, okay? But obviously, because Ukraine doesn't have nuclear weapons, that's why it was so easy for Russia to just go ahead and move into Ukraine. So will Ukraine try to produce a nuclear bomb or a rudimentary nuclear bomb within months? Maybe. We'll have to see if Ukraine tries to do that. I think a lot of this could depend on what Donald Trump decides to do. If he decides to pull away assistance from Ukraine and no longer support Ukraine, basically deserting them, we'll have to see what Donald Trump plans to do. I don't think he'll completely pull away from Ukraine. Maybe he might threaten Ukraine to maybe negotiate with Russia or something like that, try to force Ukraine and Russia to agree on some sort of deal, whether it favors Ukraine or it favors Russia. I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump just wants to end this war, but we'll go ahead and see what he's going to plan to do here in the coming months, okay? Also, for more translated Dmitry, again, Pentagon spokesperson Pat Ryder stated that the White House will do everything in the final weeks of the cadence to ensure Ukraine is better positioned at the negotiating table. Regarding Trump's alleged plans to freeze the war in Ukraine, Ryder responded that he was not going to speculate or resort to hypothesizing about the next administration. He said Ukraine matters and its security is important not only to Europe but also to the United States. Okay, so again, we're continuing to hear that the U.S. is going to step up their support for Ukraine. Even Pat Ryder, the Pentagon spokesman, reiterating that same claim. Okay, so we should see more support for Ukraine coming in the next couple months. War translated Dmitry again, according to Bild, Ukrainian armed forces have deployed the ultra-powerful 2S7 Pion artillery weighing 60 tons near Toretsk. This is in eastern Ukraine in the Donetsk region. This is the heaviest gun in the world, developed in the USSR in the 1960s to destroy concrete fortifications. It requires 203 millimeter shells, which ran out quickly in 2022. The publication noted, recently the United States supplied shells of this caliber manufactured in the 1950s and 60s for the M110 and M115 guns. So take a look at this thing. Pretty massive artillery system. So this is the 2S7 Pion artillery gun that apparently has been deployed to Ukraine's eastern front in the Donetsk region near Toretsk. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about Toretsk. It has definitely been under attack heavily by the Russians at some point. I think they started to push about halfway into that city on the eastern front, and then eventually Ukraine started to push them back out to the outskirts, last we heard. But still heavy fighting happening in that area, which makes sense why Ukraine would have deployed this heavy artillery gun, okay? Two more things to share with you guys before we get you out of here. Special Kherson Cat, one of the Ukrainian decoys of the M777, which fulfilled its purpose to be destroyed. So we have seen lots of photos coming out from Ukraine. I've shown this to you guys repeatedly of decoys that are used inside Ukraine. Looks like this is a M777. This is a artillery gun as well. I think it's a howitzer. Ukraine does have some of these, but they also built decoys so that way it could be destroyed and, obviously could be used as a decoy to confuse the Russians into thinking it's a real thing. And if it does get destroyed, it was clearly just made out of some wood here, okay? You can clearly see the pieces here on the ground. So that was a picture coming out from Ukraine. One last thing to share with you here from Noel Reports. If Russia didn't have nuclear weapons, we would already be there kicking them out of Ukraine, is what NATO Military Committee Chair Rob Bauer said. So, he basically says here that if Russia did not have nuclear weapons, NATO would have already been in Ukraine kicking Russia out. But because Russia has nuclear weapons, this is the reason why NATO is not involved. Take a look at this.
I'm absolutely sure if the Russians did not have nuclear weapons, we would have been in Ukraine, kicking them out. We would have. But they have nuclear weapons, so it's not the same as in Afghanistan. I'm absolutely sure if the Russians...
Very interesting, right? Yeah. So, do you think NATO would have gotten involved in this war militarily? Do you think they would have thrown their troops into Ukraine to prevent this Russian invasion if Russia did not have nuclear weapons? I mean, we have definitely seen that for sure. In terms of like a red line for Russia, they've come out and stated that if British Storm Shadow missiles attack them, anything like that, long range missiles start flying into Russia, this would be NATO doing this. And Russia's already come out and said, Vladimir Putin even, that they'd be using nuclear weapons, most likely, already doing nuclear drills as well around the same time that these threats were starting to pop up for Russia. So obviously, the West does appear to be very worried of the fact that Russia does have nuclear weapons and they are afraid of escalation getting involved. And because NATO has nuclear weapons and the United States, obviously it would resort to potentially a nuclear war. So is this confirmation that NATO is afraid of Russia using nuclear weapons, and this is why they are so afraid to escalate the war with Ukraine and protect them in maybe ways that more people might like? Let me know what you think down below, but that was a huge report coming out today as well. So just so much coming out from this war today. Wanted to get you caught up to speed on what is happening over here between the war with Russia and Ukraine. But I hope you got something out of this today. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.